So why is this video for non-pilots? It's for non-pilots because we need you. I'm kind of typical of the pilots you see around today, mostly old farts. General Aviation's been kind of dying on the vine for lack of interest and for, of course, the economy and increased expense. This airport and its sincerity normally would have all kinds of hustling and bustling on a weekend. Now it's quiet, you only occasionally hear an airplane. And that's because young people have gotten away and have no interest in general aviation. Well, it's kind of a shame because general aviation, the mystique to it has been kind of overstated. It's not a difficult skill to master. It requires effort to maintain proficiency. But the basics of flying and learning to fly a general aviation airplane, such as this Cessna 150, is very easy and very basic. Now, this isn't a flying lesson. This is just an introduction to try to tell you how easy it is to be a pilot. This airplane behind me is, next time you're on an airliner, look up front. Half the airlines pilots that are flying in this country today got their training in a little Cessna 150 like this, or a 152, or a similar airplane. They're very basic, they're very reliable, and mastering that skill is a lot simpler than you think. Okay, let's go flying and see just how basic and simple this flying is. We're landing at a non-controlled airport in this case, and of course you have to learn the rules of the road in an airplane just like you did in a car when you got your driver's license. But those aren't a major task to overcome. A little study and you'll be up to speed. We're on what's called a downwind leg here for a landing runway. This is where we slow the airplane down and we merge in with other traffic. We start to lower the flaps. As you see the flaps coming down on the wing, that allows us to slow the airplane down even more. It also creates drag. In this case, we're making a fairly short approach for noise abatement to avoid a housing area. We try to be good neighbors when we fly. And here we keep slowing the aircraft down. We're turning over the final approach now. We're flaring the aircraft. And you can see the main gear is what we want to touch down on. We use the back pressure on the yoke to bleed off more speed and slowly let the aircraft settle to the runway. And here you can see we're just settling in. We continue that back pressure on to let the airplane slow down with what's called aerodynamic braking. It saves getting hard on the brakes and saves wear and tear in the airplane and helps you slow up in a safe manner. And once we slow down, the nose gear is put back on the ground. You can see here how the back pressure is held until we're ready to put the nose gear down. Now, if that looked simple, that's only because it was. Okay, so you thought that landing was pretty easy. Well, let's take a look at takeoff. It's even more basic. In this case, we're at a controlled airport where we are working a tower and we're waiting for a clearance from the local control to taxi onto the runway. And we'll be departing. Here we've been cleared onto the runway now. The aircraft moves forward. We steer with our feet while we're on the ground with the rudder pedals. Push left to go left, right to go right. And we're going to line up with the center of the runway here. We've already been cleared for takeoff, so we're going to start accelerating. Throttle goes in. We check gauges for full power. We start putting a little back pressure in, just taking the weight off the airplane, and let the airplane establish its own attitude to fly off the ground. Here again from the outside you can see that the gear tends to look lighter and lighter as there's less weight on it as the airplane starts to develop lift as it accelerates. Here you can see the nose gear just coming off the ground. Looking at the main gear from underneath the aircraft, you can see the spring gear starts to arc more and more because there's less weight on the airplane. And here we are about to leave the ground. It should come off and the gear arcs in. We're continuing with the back pressure on the airplane. A little trim with our trim wheel here to set the airplane up for the rate of climb we like. Everything looks good, all the gauges are good. And Tower does have a faster airplane and air carrier on approach behind us, so they've asked us to make an early left turn to get out of the way. As long as we have safe airspeed and safe rate of climb, we can conduct that turn and go on course to accommodate the tower. Here we are still climbing, making sure everything's good, checking all our gauges and keeping the back pressure and the trim set up the way we want to climb. But very basic, not a lot of work involved here. The airplane's done most of it for us. We've just more or less monitored the system, applied a little back pressure. With very little experience, a pilot can learn these skills very quickly. Well, as you can see, if you can operate a smartphone, chances are you could learn to fly an airplane without too much difficulty. That begs the question, why do I want to be a pilot, and why do I want to learn how to fly? That question's going to have to come from the inside. This little magic carpet will take you to a whole new world with all new vistas and many wonderful things to see. You won't be looking at a 4-inch screen in the palm of your hand. You'll be part of it. You'll be flying through it. So how about it? Come join us in General Aviation. Think about being a pilot.